All right, everybody, take a deep breath. A much needed blowout victory for the Celtics tonight. They're still wrapping this one up in Golden State, but we're going live early. We couldn't wait. We're going to talk about this game. We're going to talk about our stat of the week. We've got in and out. We've got all of that and more coming up next here on Green with Envy. You guys know the deal. Let's lock in. What up, what up, what up? Welcome into another edition of Green with Envy, a post-game special after a beat down of the Golden State Warriors. Celtics just wrapped this up in San Francisco, 125-85. As always, this is your boy Will Weir checking in. How you doing? How you living? Joining me as he does each and every time, my best friend, co-host, and the coach of the podcast, the one and only Greg Menakis. Greg, I'm not gonna lie, man. I needed this. I was a little stressing on these C's. I know the long-term perspective. It's always very, I'm very aware of that. But this team has been very frustrating. This was nice to have this type of night tonight.
Yeah, we can talk about the Hawks game later if you want. Let's start with the positives. I'm only making one political comment today. One political comment. This is the only political comment I'm making on the day of Trump's inauguration. Will, you just gave me the typical Will salute. I don't know if you saw Elon Musk's salute today,
I did
but
see that.
I prefer your salute to that one. I'll just throw that out there. Let's move on. Let's talk about Celtics, Warriors. What were your
good statement? That speaks for the podcast, by the way. Just for those you listen, that covers everyone associated with the podcast.
All right. So with this game, coming into this game today, where were you at with the Celtics? You mentioned you were starting to feel some type of way about the team. Describe to me your feelings coming into the game today.
Frustrated. I think just frustrated. Just from the standpoint of part of it's you and I have decided to dedicate as a hobby a lot of our free time to watching this team. In the last several weeks, just haven't been enjoyable. I understand the joy that they brought me all last year, the joy that came with winning a championship, and you detailed like we went from 08 until last year. Like that, we never know when that's going to come back again, right? Like this could be the last championship until James is a senior in high school, right? Like that's a very real possibility. But this team has been very frustrating to watch. And, we talk a lot when the Celtics were getting challenged earlier in the year. It's like, man, everybody's giving them their best shot. Celtics were losing to a lot of teams recently that are not giving you their best shot. They're just giving you a shot. Like it's not even their best shot. So that it was a lot of self-induced errors. Like you said, we'll talk about what happened at the end of the Atlanta game where there's just a comedy of errors, I think, to multiple people that we can attribute to. Pelicans game, nearly the wheels came off. Did have a nice win with the Magic mixed in. We do got to make sure we add that in there. But it had just been this kind of unevenness. But, tonight, we go into this game. Warriors are missing, no, who they have? No Draymond tonight, no Kuminga, no Kyle Anderson. I think there's one more guy. I missed no Pods for this game. However, we've seen that come back to bite the Celtics in the ass before, where it's like, oh yeah, look at this injury sheet. We're fully healthy. Remember the team that kicked everyone's ass last year? Hasn't been the case, but tonight we did get that version. We did get a team that played really, really loose and really. This was one of the first times in which their talent just overwhelmed the other team. We saw that all last year, right? That was a constant theme of no matter whether the other team's healthy or not, we're going to overwhelm you with our talent. Hadn't seen that, did get that tonight. So I think just getting a little glimpse of that just felt good. It felt good after some frustrating times, especially with a lot of those games before tonight being home games as well. And Celtics just have straight up been a far better road team than home team this year.
Right. Yeah. And I actually took a peek at the Twitter timeline during this game just to get a feel for, what's going on the interwebs with how Celtics fans are feeling about this team. And, John Corrales had some anti-Tatum step back tweets out there. There are a few other people that were just like, the Celtics are up 15 at halftime, but we probably should be up by 30, the way as bad as the Warriors looked without those guys.
Right.
So it was like, we weren't really appreciating the dominant defense that we saw in that first half, where the Warriors only had 38 points and they couldn't buy a bucket against the smothering Celtics defense, right? So just getting a sense and temperature check from everybody out there on Twitter, and just like this conversation right now, all the text messages that we're having with our friends. How is everybody feeling about the Celtics at this point coming into this game? And they played great tonight, right? Yeah, they probably should have been up by more than 20 points at halftime, but at the end of the game today, we have a 40-point victory. I don't know how many 40-point victories we've had this year, maybe one or two, but it feels really nice to start this road trip, which is a relatively tough road trip. We're in Golden State, then we get the back-to-back in LA, and then I believe that's when we're in Dallas. By the way, if you are in Dallas, and if you're a listener of the pod, it's my boy Will's bachelor party this upcoming weekend in Dallas. The boys are going to be in the building to watch the Celtics and Mavs finals rematch. If you are there, holla at your boys. Holla at your boys. We will be.
Where are we sitting, Greg? You guys took care of the tickets, so I didn't know where we are. But maybe take a look at it later while I'm talking. We can
courtside, baby. We're gonna
courtside. Yeah, I wish. That's the surprise. I ruined the surprise already. We got 9 dudes sitting courtside in Celtics gear.
Imagine.
Yeah, that would be a good surprise. But yeah, for some reason you guys are in the Dallas area, let us know. Shoot us a message, DM us. Would love to be out there. But yeah, I see you guys out there. But hopefully we don't get a repeat of Game 4 from last year. This is redemption. This is redemption. And this week, hopefully it's spelled WILL. That's how we're going to try and do it this weekend in Dallas. But yeah, Greg, I think this is actually, I think it's probably an underrated road trip compared to how much we hyped up the last West Coast road trip from a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And we were like, this is vaunted. This is all these different, playing the T-Wolves, the Rockets, the Thunder, and the Nuggets, right? Like that was probably slightly tougher, but this is no joke. I mean, the Warriors, yes, we got a little bit lucky with some of their injuries. The Clippers are a team that I am really excited to watch the Celtics play this week, because I have not really watched any Clippers basketball, but they're playing really well. They're playing really, really well. And so then that plus a back-to-back with LA, like that's Lakers. It's just Celtics Lakers, right? And they have LeBron and AD. Like that's always going to be a tough game. It's always going to have a certain energy to it. And you're coming off, playing the Clippers the night before. Like that's a really tough game. Then you got to fly to Dallas. Like, and yeah, no Luka in that game, but still, like the Mavericks are, even though they did lose to the Hornets today, Mavericks still, they're still in the mix of all these teams in the West. So this is going to be an interesting trip for the Celtics to see, see how they kind of respond to this inconsistent play. And sometimes a road trip is good for a team when that's the case, right? Like you get this time together, you're kind of just in your bubble with your team. And this was a hell of a way to start it. And you mentioned like the defense tonight in this game. And, I'll be honest, the Warriors, when you took Steph Curry off the court, it looked like it might have been our rec league team out there, Greg. That might have been just our men's league team trying to get a bucket. It was pretty tough to watch, but the defense was locked in. And I thought the ball movement, as well as just, knowing when to cut, when to go to that killer whale offense, go hunt Steph Curry, go find that matchup. I just thought the Celtics were a lot more in tune on both sides of the ball really tonight.
Yeah, and there were a couple of times where it felt like we were over hunting the Steph Curry matchup, which can kind of bog things down a little bit. But for the most part, I thought that they were really smart about the way they played out of the post tonight, because as much as we say the Celtics can seem too small at times, I've been advocating for more double big. I've been advocating even for a potential lineup switch in the starting lineup, right? Just to get more size on the court. Against this Warriors team, they're tiny. Right, this Warriors team is so small out there. Like Trace Jackson Davis and Kevon Looney are both undersized big men that are out there. They're like Al Horford sized big men. So the Celtics were just towering over them at most positions on the court. And when they play out of the post like that, when they play advantage basketball out of the post like that, that's when it leads to the around the horn hockey pass, on the hockey assist happening, the extra pass from one corner all the way to the opposite wing just going around the horn. And that's the type of Celtics basketball that you want to see. And there were multiple instances of that. A couple times, Jaylen Brown was the initiator, give the ball to Jaylen in the post, very patient there, kind of that left-hand hook pass along the baseline, hit Sam Hauser in the corner, pass, wide open three for Pritchard. Like those types of things were happening in this game. And that's the offense that we haven't just seen enough of consistently out of this squad. Our conversation with Richard White the other day, right? He was advocating to get back to Celtics basketball and just play more advantage basketball. And it was nice to see that back tonight. I thought everybody that was on the court tonight really did a good job just buying into the game plan on both sides of the court. And we finally got to see Celtics basketball against an undermanned Warriors team, albeit, but I still think it was.
You got to start somewhere. Right.
Yeah.
You have to start somewhere. We thought maybe, hey, they got a game against the Raptors. That's where it's going to come. Didn't come there. So, you got to start somewhere and then kind of build off of that. But this did really have a nice feel to get. I mean, I'm just looking through the box score here. I mean, there's not even, if you like were, the type of fan that would find a nitpick for anything, it's really hard to look at this box score when you win by 40 points, obviously, to go and find a nitpick. So I think it's nice to get, just get a nice shooting night. It's been a while, man. I mean, the Celtics over these last, several games here, it's been tough in their last 7 games, they're shooting 30.9% from three in their last 7 games.
We had 23s tonight.
Yeah, exactly. So to have a night where you're shooting 42%, 41.7%, like knowing that that's exceptional, but for them, their standard being 37, 38% on the volume that they're taking, like that's where they want to be. And for so long right now, they've been closer to that 34, 35% range and even lower over this last stretch. So I think even just seeing the ball go through the hoop, for a guy like Sam Hauser, who had a couple of nice shots that were part of that ball movement that you talked about, making that hockey pass. He's usually the guy that's one of the beneficiaries of that. And you saw that tonight, right? And that's something that we haven't seen quite as much of. So maybe this is a game that helps to get him going, right? Because that's a big part of this that we talked about with Richards. Everybody is down. Other than Peyton Pritchard, everybody's percentages have come down. Sam's and Drew's really kind of being the ones that stand out the most. So for those guys tonight to hit a combined, 5 threes on 9 attempts, that's big. That's big because hopefully that continues to roll over into the momentum for the rest of this trip. But Greg, you asked me how I was feeling coming into this game. We didn't talk about the games leading up to this from over the weekend. There's been 3 games throughout this weekend, right? Friday night, Saturday night, now here Monday on the holiday weekend. How were you feeling about this team coming into this game? You're a little bit more leveled than I am. I typically kind of go through it and then take a moment, and it's like, you know what? I know
then I have to talk you down
a little bit. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I always know the long term. I know the long term correct answer, but there are times where I just want to vent about Drew Holiday making a horrible pass. I want to vent about
Drew
Joe
had
Mazzulla not subbing out. Let's talk a little bit about that. So walk me through, because you're more positive. So walk me through what you were thinking, because there's a whole bunch of things we can talk about from the end of that Atlanta game. Yeah. And those are the things that I hope don't start to take on a narrative for this team, because narratives, it's an annoying word. It's an overused word, but they do tend to play themselves out in the biggest moments when you get to the playoffs. Right. Yeah. And so that's what I don't want.
Narratives are insidious like that, man. They're definitely, they kind of just like fester in your mind like a splinter, like in the Matrix, the splinter that you just know is there and you just want to fucking pull it out. Right. That's what it is with the narrative. And Drew Holiday has had a rough season, man. He has not played up to his standard at all. He played good 2 games ago, so he didn't play good against the Hawks. The game before that, who do we play? I'm having a hard time. The Magic. He played great against the Magic. Yeah. I thought he actually played really well in that game. Didn't play great against the Hawks. I thought he played well tonight, and he needed to make up for it. He needed to atone for it, because it was a joke what happened at the end of the game. I don't know. To be fair to Drew, he had been benched at the end of that game in favor of Peyton Pritchard. Right. So there's a chance that maybe he had already, like, in his mind said, this is Peyton Pritchard's game. I'm just kind of like, kind of turning off the gas a little bit, because Pritchard was playing so well in that fourth quarter, and Mazzulla just went with him. And then Holiday checks back in, and he makes some of the worst plays of the game. Tatum hits him with that pass where he could go take a layup, and instead you try and pull it out and get, 2 more seconds off the clock when we could have got 2 points and go up 5 with no timeouts on the other side. The game's over. Right there. The game is over.
Trae Young literally just got a technical at the dumbest fucking time possible. It's insane that Trae Young somehow got himself in a position to get a technical. And then it was like, okay, this game has to be over now. That's such a dumb play. This has to be where the tide turns. And we somehow gave it all back. And it drove me nuts on Saturday night.
Crazy. And then Holiday pulls it out, right? He passes it to Jaylen Brown, just a terrible pass where he could have just held the ball and got fouled and gone to the free throw line. But instead, he wants to, I guess, waste a couple more seconds, throws another shitty pass to Jaylen Brown. It goes out of bounds. And then we have at the end of the game, who was it that missed the 2 free throws?
Jalen Johnson.
Jalen Johnson. Jalen Johnson misses 2 free throws. We can't get the rebound. Okongwu, Scal, I think, called this out, but it was weird because Okongwu was in between Tatum and Kata, but Kata wasn't the guy, wasn't the low man. It was like, why is Kata the high man there?
Here's the other thing. Why the fuck is Kata in the game? Luke Cornett was having maybe his best game of the year, and then Joe just went with Kata down the stretch and into OT, and Kata got torn apart defensively for stretches of that overtime.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna,
I didn't understand that at all, and no one asked him about it afterwards. I don't understand that. Beat reporters, how did no one ask Joe Mazzulla about that? Blew my mind.
Yeah, it was strange. I think the idea in that game was they didn't want Trae Young to get going from 3, and Cornette isn't as switchable as Kata, and they just wanted Kata to be able to stay high on Trae Young. Didn't work out. But I think that was the idea. But then it's like, if you really don't want Cornette out there, put in Drew Holiday. Just go small. Have Tatum at the 5 there. You know, like, it's not like the Hawks have like a dominating big man. So that was strange. But we move on from that Hawks game. You asked me how I was feeling. Honestly, I said to Danielle right after that game ended, I was frustrated as the game was happening. I was like, this is a joke. Like, how the hell did we just blow that? Like, this is pathetic. I was using words like that. But after the game, I was like, I really don't care. You know, we just won I'm going to keep coming back to this. We just won a championship. Like, that gives, in my opinion, for the way that I feel on the inside, I don't really care game to game about how this team does, as long as they can show us that they can turn it on when it really matters. And they did that tonight against the Warriors. First game of a West Coast trip. They went 3-1 on the last West Coast trip. So, like, these are the moments that I think show a little bit more about the top end potential of this team, because they still have the character of last year to kind of fall back on, right? They still have that. Sure. It's not like they brought in anybody new this year. So I still feel fine about this team. I told her after the game, I was like, I really like this last year. This game would have murdered me. The Hawks game, I would have been miserable. I probably would have like ended dry January and put down a couple of glasses of whiskey, and I just went to bed. You know, I didn't stress it at all.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the healthy and correct long-term perspective. But yeah, it's to your point, last year it would have been like, oh my God, this is it. This is the end. But I think even Steve Kerr talked about it because he was asked about what it's like as, you know, with these Warriors, right? They're the last team to go back to back in 17-18. That was the last one where there has been, like, it's really hard to repeat. We've had, I think, 6 straight different champions. And so, you know, Steve Kerr kind of said the same thing, like, hey, this is what happens. And as a reminder, and I talked about this as well last episode, like, I got to check myself sometimes, like, this wasn't the Celtics' first rodeo. Like, you go back to the bubble since 2020, and there's been truncated seasons mixed in. They've been Eastern Conference Finals in the bubble. Jalen got hurt. They lost in the first round. And then it's NBA Finals, Game 7 Eastern Conference Finals, another NBA Finals run, and then you know, a quarter of your team and half of your main rotation went off to the Olympics and then came back. So, like, that has to factor in as well, too, right? Like, that's a major component of this. And so, you know, while trying to compare them to those Warriors teams and to other teams that were able to pull off back-to-backs, or, you know, the three-peats like the Lakers and Bulls, like, those were exceptional teams. And the Celtics have been to the finals 2 of the last 3 years, are very, very close to being Jason Tatum's sprained ankle away from being in the finals 3 straight years in a row. And so maybe the Celtics are that team. Maybe they are. We don't know yet. And so we're going to find that out. And I think, you know, to your point, responding first game, West Coast trip, very good sign. Like the indication here. And we'll have to see this week going forward. I'm really interested to see how this team plays against some tough competition, against the Clippers, against the Lakers. It'll be interesting to see how Joe, and what do you think Joe's going to do? Because Joe's been kind of switching this up when it comes to Al and KP, as far as it's a little bit of a guessing game. So I'm asking you to guess, you know, what do you think he's going to do with this back-to-back in LA?
Well, Zubac is
There's some big boys on both teams.
Yeah. So I think I think we're gonna probably play. If I had to guess, we're gonna play the Clippers with both big men, and I think we'll try and patch it together in the following game. That would be my guess, just because I think Zubac has like the physicality where I think we need both of those bigs out there. But then again, I think Cornet might surprise us against a guy like Zubac. So maybe you go KP and Cornet and you would save Horford for the AD matchup. I think Horford probably matches up better with AD than Porzingis does anyway. So now that I'm just thinking this out right now,
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting you to ask
Yeah,
this
we didn't
question.
plan this.
So yeah, so I think if I were Joe, I would sit Horford for the Clippers game, play him against the Lakers, because I think Horford also matches up better in a switch against LeBron. So
That's a
yeah,
good call.
I'd probably rely on Keita and Cornet to match up with Zubac, and then save Horford for the Lakers game.
Yeah, I like that. I think Joe's been experimenting a little bit with what he thinks is best. So I think that will be just something to keep an eye on here in the next couple of days to see what the Celtics do with that. Either way, when we're in Dallas, they should ideally, hopefully, be still at full strength. But looking forward to this upcoming week of basketball. Just to reiterate here, we've got the Clippers on Wednesday, Lakers on Thursday, and then Dallas on Saturday, which your boys will be at. And then they actually play the Rockets on Monday too. That's back at the TD Garden, but that's a tough 5-game stretch right there. So big stretch of basketball here for the Celtics. As always, we usually record on Sundays, but we kicked it one day here with MLK Day, whole slew of games going on across the NBA. So we're going to get to our segments, our standard segments that we do here each and every week. So let's get into that here, Greg. Let's do our stat of the week here. Let's go to stat of the week first. What you got for us this week?
I actually got it pulled up here. So this is actually from our guy, Brian Barrett over at the Ringer off the pike. So Celtics last 7 games coming into tonight, fourth quarter, offensive rating 30th in the league. Will, how many teams are there in the league?
30 teams in the league.
So that's last place.
Not very good.
93.5 offensive rating, 115.7 defensive rating, which is good for 20th in the league, and then a negative 22.2 net rating, which is 29th in the league.
Hey, not last.
31-26 against the Hawks, 22-15 against the Raptors, 38-21 against the Kings, 29-12 against the Thunder. Now, last year, we blew so many teams out. We didn't get into crunch time too often. The fourth quarters were very similar to tonight's game against the Warriors, where they didn't matter, and to see so many more games this year where the Celtics have to be there in the fourth quarter and play the entire fourth quarter, they've been tested, and they haven't met that test. Too frequently, they haven't met that test. Last 7 games have been especially bad, as we saw with shout out to Brian Barrett for putting those stats together. And it was nice tonight to not have to go and test those stats. We just need more games where we get to the fourth quarter and everybody, including us, can just chill. Enjoy the fact that we have one of the best teams I've ever seen assembled in my 35 years of life. This team is amazing. They have so much talent. They're going to get it together. That stat of the week was very alarming, but then we blow the Warriors out by 40 points tonight. And then on Wednesday against the Clippers, I'm sure it will be a close fourth quarter where we can test those stats again.
Yeah, it's interesting. Anytime the Celtics do have a loss, like we talked about with the Hawks on Saturday, it's like, all right, I got to figure out what stat is it that's telling me. And really, it's been that those fourth quarter numbers you pulled up are really the only things to point to, because overall, when you look at their net rating throughout a whole game, you look at their offensive rating, their defensive rating, their record, their wins and losses, everything's telling you this team's basically the same, except there's that fourth quarter numbers and then the starting lineup numbers that we talked about with Richard White in the last episode. Those are the only 2 things that you can really find, because even with the shooting being more middle of the tier with the percentages, they're making more of them, right? So that's kind of counterbalancing even that statistic, where it shouldn't be, where it's really not as much of a negative as you would think it would be, right? Because you're still making more threes per game. But it's really interesting when we get to see that. And I think, to your point, Celtics need some more of these type of blowout nights where it's like we can kind of put the guys on ice. And, once again, being the first of a 4-game road trip, the first of, I think this is going to be 5 games in 7 days, I believe. Yeah, it's going to be 5 games in 7 days. you need that, right? We already just talked about Horford and Porzingis are probably going to be balanced in some shape or form for the LA games. And so getting an entire fourth quarter off for that starting five and the majority off for, Peyton Pritchard and stuff, like that's going to help you. That's going to help going forward here. So I do think that will be key for the Celtics as we start to, once we get past the All-Star break, then we'll get to really hone in on minutes and what this looks like. And that's when you really got to start rounding into form. But until the All-Star break, part of the goal is like, let's just get there. Let's get to the All-Star break. After that time, then it's really, lock in and lock in or shut up, right? Like there's no other option. There's no more like, maybe next time. It's you got to start doing it here. So I like that, Greg. I went a little bit different for mine here. This is kind of an NBA wide statistic that I went with here, but it's become a little bit more of a popular shot. We played Trae Young the other night. He's been using it. Victor Wembanyama's been using it. I don't know if you watched the Hornets and Mavericks a little bit today.
Yeah.
LaMelo Ball is the biggest fan of it. And I was playing pickup hoops yesterday, and our guy, Corey, shout out to him, who opens up the gym. He's one of the first dudes who I've seen regularly doing one-legged jumpers, one-legged three-point shots in pickup, and he's pretty damn good at it. It's honestly his best shot that he has. It's crazy. It makes no sense to me, but it goes in way more than you'd expect. But this is a real thing in the NBA today. So once again, shout out to Crumple Jumper, Todd Whitehead. I got another stat from him here, just like I did last week. Leaders in one-legged three-point attempts this season. Any idea who's leading the league, Greg? LaMelo by a long shot. He's 53 attempts, and he's made 21 of them, so he's shooting 40% on them. This was numbers from, I don't know if he shot one today, but I watched part of that game. I don't remember any one-legged jumpers, but 21 of 53. Trae Young is 3 of 7. Wembanyama's 2 of 6. Hallie's 1 of 6. And LeBron, who we'll see later this week, 3 of 5. But the reason I bring this up is I'm just curious. Do you think in, let's call it 3 to 5 years, do you think this is going to become a more popular shot, just the way that, whether it's Euro steps or the Dirk became, part of everyone's bag, so to speak? Do you foresee this down the road? Obviously not overnight, but 3 to 5 years. Do you see this becoming a legit part of maybe someone like Cooper Flagg's game, or so? I mean, it's kind of a mix here. Of you got guards and you've got bigger guys. Although it is a lot of bigger guards minus Trae Young. But what do you think, Greg? You're the coach of the pod. Tell me what your thoughts are on it.
At first I thought you were going to say, are we going to see more people in just like YMCA pickup games shooting shots like this? But league wide, I mean, when you think, like, to your point that you just said about Dirk, right? It is a copycat league. When people see other players having success with certain shots, they're going to practice it and see if it works for them. Coaches do that all the time. Coaches steal from each other all the time. The moment you see, like, in the Mind the Game podcast, when LeBron James said, this is how we should guard that one inbounds play, right? And then everybody started guarding that inbounds play that way, taking away the shooter coming to the corner, having the guy that's guarding the inbound take the guy going to the corner, and then having the guy that was on there take the inbound, right? So, like, when everybody learns from each other. So LaMelo Ball, his game is unorthodox. And Lonzo has said that LaMelo was shooting shots like that since he was a kid because he was always smaller playing with the older guys, right? So this was something that he's always done since he was little. So if the little kids out there, and LaMelo is one of the most popular NBA players right now, right?
Yeah,
so like
go check the NBA All-Star votes.
Exactly. Check the NBA All-Star votes where he's the leading guard in the Eastern Conference. So I think in the league, or is it just the Eastern Conference?
Just the Eastern Conference, yeah.
Okay.
I'd have to double check, but I'm pretty sure it's just the Eastern Conference.
So I think maybe 15 years from now, where LaMelo's popularity, maybe this is the thing, just like Steph Curry revolutionized the 30-footer, maybe LaMelo Ball is going to revolutionize, and especially with Wemby, if Wemby starts shooting it as well, he's going to be the face of the league in a couple of years. I think more and more people might try it to see if it works for them. And it is kind of like a rhythm shot. You know what I mean? Like, there is something to be said. Like, I've tried it myself, just like in like horse and stuff like that, just like one-legged 3-pointers. And there is something, like, it allows you to get to your just like natural form. You know what I mean? Where it almost becomes just
it's like an alignment. I feel like this would be a good like just shooting drill, right? Like, you're just like lining up, you're tucking in your elbow, you've got your your knee, you're pointed at the basket. Like, it makes a lot of sense, right? Like it really does. And Yeah, I just think it's interesting, like how now it's like not just like in the half court. It's really interesting to think about that type of shot coming from the 3-point line.
Yeah, and LaMelo is interesting because he almost shoots it off of step backs. Wemby, I
That's
feel
what
like
I'm saying.
Wemby,
It's crazy
yeah,
what
Wemby
Lamelo
does
does.
it just like our guy Corey does it. Maybe Wemby's been
Right.
spying on our pickup runs, but Corey does it almost as like just a runner from the 3-point line. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I think that's how Wemby does it. LaMelo almost shoots that off of a step back where he just it almost like the Dirk shot where Dirk would shoot one-legged
It's a longer
fadeaways.
Dirk shot is
Yep,
what basically what
exactly.
LaMelo's is.
Exactly.
Yeah. So there's two different variations of it. LeBron's is kind of like is he's a little bit more like LaMelo, but it's just because he's just old and that's just how he moves these days, right? So it is interesting to see the two different variances with it. And I still think about actually, do you remember a couple years ago, Luca hit a game winner this way, where like I think he shot it as like a floater basically from the 3-point line. And like by the time he
Yeah.
finished, he was like, near the free throw line, but it was a game winning shot. So
I think
yeah, this is interesting.
was it LeBron or Kobe? Somebody one of them had a bank shot three. Maybe it was D Wade. It was either LeBron, Kobe, or D Wade in like a really big game, and maybe been a Christmas game. Hit a
I feel like
buzzer
Kobe
beater
and D.
one.
I know what you're talking about, and I feel like both Kobe and D Wade had like a similar type shot.
Okay,
Because
yeah.
I know exactly what you're trying to reference, and I know why you can't decipher. Because I think it feels like both of them might have had that.
But I think it was like either D Wade was trying to block Kobe or Kobe was trying to block D Wade.
Okay,
I think they were like both involved in the play. Yeah, I like that though, man. That's really interesting. I can't believe LaMelo has shot 50 of those
it's a
shots
lot.
this year.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
good for him.
got free range in Charlotte to say the least. All right, let's go to our in or out of the week. I'll go first on this one, Greg. Here, so um, I'm out on how many gambling ads that we have in every single broadcast. Like,
Mm.
listen, I don't care. I think people should gamble. I think it's fine. I played down a little bet today. Didn't work out. It's okay. It's all good. Celtics were, they won by 40 points, so it wasn't going to work out. It is what it is. But dude, watching one of the games this week, it just really stood out to me because it was an NBC Sports game. We've got an ESPN bet commercial. We've got segments that are sponsored by FanDuel, and then we've got DraftKings on the baseline. It's like, can we chill out with all of the in like every 2 minutes we've got popping in like now the line is this, now the line. It's like, oh my god, like I get it. I get it, but we're also at the same time, and actually, I don't want to get into the whole like moralistic part of it because I actually don't give a shit about that. That just would have been another counterpoint, but it's just overwhelming. I just think collectively we need to chill out with all of the gambling advertisements. That's what I'm out on for this week.
Is it like the moral devolution of society? Are you worried about like
No, I was
the
gonna say like
country?
it's so just like hypocritical. The NBA, like, I mean, listen, like you can't have Jonte Porter fucking texting people about what's gonna happen at halftime, and then you kick him out of the league. But it's like there's a lot of other worse shit than that, and you guys are fucking
Right, right.
advertising nonstop, like multiple times on multiple avenues. So that was the moralist thing. I'm like, I don't actually care about that, but that would be another if I was really sitting here trying to make point counterpoint, like that would have been something that I could bring up, but I just don't actually care about that. I just feel like it's just overload for me with all of these betting ads. And I think we could probably chill out a little bit with it. It's also a little
I
bit kind
like
of annoying to be as involved in every broadcast as it is.
I feel you. I like that. I like you standing on some business there, even though you said that you laid down a bet. I
Yeah,
haven't
yeah,
touched a
yeah.
bet. I haven't touched a bet in a couple of years, so
Well, 'cause I'm not
it's a
saying people
little tough.
shouldn't gamble. I'm just saying we don't need the advertisements as over the top as we have them in every single game, and they're jammed
Yeah.
into every statistic now that we get on a broadcast. Like,
Would
let's
you
just keep
rather
it
have
simple.
more, let's see, something else that can destroy society? Would you rather have more alcohol ads?
I mean, we got plenty of those. And listen, I work in
I
cannabis. We
feel like I
can't
don't
even
see too many.
advertise.
Maybe I'm just
I
not paying attention to the
I
commercials
mean, dude,
anymore.
they're so ingrained. I mean, if we well, here's the thing. We're also lucky because we have to watch on League Pass. And instead of
Right.
commercials, we get like the whatever's happening in arena, which is a million times better than
Yeah.
having to watch a bunch of commercials. So that's one of the best parts about League Pass is I get to watch Little Funk instead of having to watch, the next Miller Lite commercial and stuff. So
Little
yeah, so
Funk. Shout out to Little Funk. Shout out to
yeah,
Red Panda.
Red Panda's dope. Red Panda's dope. My wife loves Little Funk when they come on. That's a good time in our house when Little Funk gets some love on the screen. So I'd rather do that. But if you do watch like a game like we did tonight on like TNT and stuff, there's a million Corona commercials, Michelob Ultra, but that's just so ingrained in part of it that I don't even notice it. But it's just not like every time Jason Tatum at the line, the Miller Lite -9.5, line has shifted. Like,
yeah. No, I feel you. I feel
just
you.
a little bit overload for me on that.
I like that. I like that. For everyone that's just waiting for the moment our new intern Alex comes on the pod, we are gonna bring him on here in a second. Shout out to Alex. I'm gonna do my in and out really quickly because I know everybody's waiting for Alex to get on the pod here. So I asked Danielle and I said, what should I do for my in or out today? And she said, early morning screeches. And I said, what the hell are you talking about? She was like, you know how in the morning, I guess I didn't even realize I do this. And this is something I'm just kind of wondering for you. And I'm wondering for everyone that's listening right now, the sounds that you make when you wake up in the morning, just to like let all of the whatever happens in your body at night out. So like for me, when I wake up in the morning, I'm going to back up off the mic a little bit here. I go like, and I like do a big stretch and make like some crazy noises.
I know what she's talking about.
So she said,
she's in on several years. She's in on you doing that.
Yeah, because she also does it. And I was like, wait a minute. Am I about to find out that this is just something that you and I do, Danielle? Or is this something that everybody does? Because literally every single morning, we both just like let all of whatever happens at night out of our body. It's a great way to wake up. If you don't do it, I suggest it.
I think stretching your body and or yawning. I don't know how Danielle does this, so I can't speak to her screeching levels, but the fact that you would call it a screech is alarming. Because I know what you do, and it's abnormal. And so the fact that she's questioning it or is saying that I'll tell you this, as far as I know, there's a version of what you do that is what I think is normal. And then there's like, you're almost like a theatrical version of what normal people do is what you waking up feels like. Like, it feels like, all right, dude, chill out. Like that's
okay. Here's my thing.
Just for people listening, I used to, when Greg and I, the last time that we lived together, which was probably like 5 or 6 years ago, I lived downstairs. Greg lives upstairs. I could hear if I was up at the time, he wouldn't wake me up. I'll say this. I could exaggerate just for the story. You wouldn't wake me up, but I could hear you do this. I should not be able to hear you perfectly clear downstairs while you're doing this upstairs. This is why you and your fiance are calling this morning screeching. I think most people call it morning stretching or yawning would be what I would say.
So I'm actually interested because this is one of those things where, like, you know how sometimes somebody will bring something up on a podcast and you're like, oh shit, yeah, like I'm so glad I'm not the only one that does that. I'm hoping that people that listen to the pod, I'm gonna have some more people come and support me on this. Like it's just like something that you do, you don't really think about it. And I'm just happy that I brought it up here because I want to see if other people are like me or if I'm as abnormal as it seems like, as you're making it seem like I am.
And listen, maybe I'm the abnormal one. Maybe because, like I said, I don't think what you guys are doing is crazy. I think if she's doing it to the level that I know that you do it, it's a bit theatrical. That's what I'll leave it as. But I think there's versions of it. So I'm curious. So if you guys are listening to this, let us know. Let us know what you guys think. If this is something, to what level are you screeching? Because I don't know. That's
well. Hey, we're about to bring Alex on the pod, so maybe this is his initiation.
Maybe this is just how we do it here. So those of you that have been following along, you guys know that we put out a job description. We
make sure you're unmuted, Alex.
By Wood Island Media here, and we were able to go out and bring in not just a video intern, but the video intern. We found our guy, and we're going to bring him on right now. If you're watching us here on YouTube, as you should be. If you're not, make sure you guys go subscribe. We have our video intern on here, Alex Gonzalez. Big round of applause. Welcome to the show, Alex.
Thank you for having me.
Hell yeah, man. All right, so you were just backstage. You were listening to us talk about this screech versus yawn conversation. Where do you fall?
I'm in on it. I might not exaggerate as much, but I definitely do that when I wake up in the morning. It helps me wake up. So I do like it just stretches you out. It gets you up
Yeah,
and ready for the
little
morning.
stretch, a little bit. I'm telling you, what Greg has going on is the fact that you're calling it morning screeching is alarming. That's the part that I can't get
To be
by. But
to also kind of be fair to Will, when Danielle first said that, I thought she was talking about the baby,
me
and I
too.
was like,
That's where I thought you were going with this.
yeah. And then she was like, no, like the way you wake up when you wake up in the morning and you just like let out a bellow from the depths of hell. I'm glad you're on my side there, Alex.
Yeah, I'm on your side. I also want to talk. You guys mentioned like the one-legged three, and
Yeah.
I was like, I watched a video on this about Trae Young specifically, how he like takes advantage of that. Like it's something new that he's added to his game when they do like that high pick and roll, and when the big man either comes up too close, he'll look like he's going to do the one-legged three, and then he'll lob it right to Capella or Kongwu, and when
You know
it's too
what?
far back, he'll shoot.
As you're mentioning this, Alex, he did have a play on Saturday night. It was where I was a little bit thrown off because I thought he was shooting a floater, and usually, you can tell when it's a floater that turns into an alley oop, right? Like as when you do this in pickup, and you're like, "That was a pass, it's a pass," and you very clearly just shot an air ball. Like this was very clearly not that, and it did throw me off a little bit. So as you're saying this, I'm now thinking about him bringing that into the game, and it's something that I hadn't even picked up until you just said that.
Yeah, and I think it makes sense, Alex, too, because like if you just think about the footwork, especially if you're coming off of pick and roll with your left hand, right? So if you're coming through right shoulder on the hip of the screener and the ball's in your left hand, you take a step, your first step off of that is with your left foot. So the next step coming up is your right leg coming into that 3-point shot, right? So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think it's also good to weaponize it, because like if somebody runs into your space, they're going to get a knee right to the nuts. You know what I mean? That's another thing to think about.
Exactly. It's just another way the game's evolving. Obviously, it's centered around 3-pointers, but it's what he does and it works.
So Alex, while we got you up here, man, number one, we're excited to have you on board here with us here at our little shindig here, our little Green with Envy crew that we got rolling over here, and we're excited to get more video content out there, which is what Alex is really going to be helping us with here, is get more and more content, not just the 2 to 3 times a week that we're doing podcasts, but trying to get a lot more, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, maybe it's there, maybe it's not there. I don't know. Depends what day you're looking for it. But follow us if it's available to you, as well as, on YouTube Shorts. So Alex is going to be really helping us out there. But Alex, what I want to know from you while we got you here and mic'd up, and I'm putting you on the spot a little bit here, so feel free to say I don't have anything right now, but do you have something that's just dwelling in the back of your head right now, some type of take, something? It doesn't have to be Celtics related. It could be basketball related. It could be anything, really. It's really up to you. Do you have something that you've been sitting on that, you know what? Fuck it, shoot or shoot. Right now is the time that you want to bring it up. Do you got something for us?
I can't think of anything on the spot. Yeah, I got nothing. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay, well, that'll be some homework. That put you on the spot. There will be some homework for you to come in one of these next couple of episodes with whatever your most scorching hot take is. I want you to come up with something for us.
All right.
Okay, Alex, I'm going to put you on the spot with a quick question here. If you had to trade one of the Celtics' top 5 guys in the offseason, which guy would you trade?
Then like Drew, D.Y.
Starting five.
Okay. I don't know. I'd probably trade Drew. He's kind of old. He's like on the older side. He's had a down year this year. I mean, obviously he's played a lot of basketball. He talked about the finals run, and then he went to the Olympics. Yeah, probably him. I don't know. I like keeping JB and JT together, even though money-wise, I don't know if that'll work moving forward. Derek White is just too much of a weapon for me to want to get rid of him. And same with Porzingis. He just is too much of a mismatch. Got to keep him.
No, I think that's probably the right answer. I was thinking about this the other day, is if I had to rank, not necessarily what I want, but what I think is most likely to happen in the offseason as far as somebody's getting traded. I don't it's just almost inevitable at this point. I think if I was a betting man, if all of those ads were to work on me, I would probably say Drew Holiday is the leading candidate. I've been thinking more about it, and the more I think about it, I think Jalen might be second, unfortunately, on that list. Only because KP is an expiring contract next year, so it's kind of like let's roll the dice for one more year, see what we get with KP. And I mean, this offseason, the way Drew Holiday's played this year, which we've talked about a bunch, has been up and down, borderline disappointing. Like you may need to make a move before, the last 2-3 years of that contract. You're like, I'm not trading for this old man. Like, and you can't even get off the money, right? So this might be the time where maybe you can try to finagle it because you're still going to have to take some money back, but it's how do we get it from, Drew's, I think it's like 32 million. How do we get that from 32 to maybe 2022 and get 1 to 2 role players out of it, right? Like, so this might be the last summer that I think the Celtics are able to do that. Otherwise, you may be looking at a JV move that I don't really want to talk about at this point.
No, I feel you on that, Will. So another question for you, Alex. Just really because I'm still getting to know you. This is more about like the way that you see the game and like who you kind of gravitate towards too. We all have players that we dream could end up on the Celtics. So I'm going to say you can't pick any of like the premier guys in the league. Like you can't pick Wemby. If there's one guy in the league that you've always wanted to or be interested in seeing on the Celtics in the future, who would it be and why?
Ooh, that's a good question. Back before we got Kristaps, I really liked Miles Turner. I thought he would be a really good fit with our team, just the way that he would do the exact same thing that Kristaps does, stretches the floor, and he's a good shot blocker. Guard wise, I don't know. I feel like right now we have the best defensive backcourt we could ask for. So I don't really
Drew.
think...
So my thing, Drew was always the guy for me. I
Yeah.
always wanted Drew Holiday in the Celtics. I never thought it'd be possible. So the fact that we have him, it's pretty great.
Yeah, I mean, even like before we had Drew, we had Marcus, who's an amazing defender, just a little bit less efficient shooting wise. So, I mean, obviously, yeah, probably Miles Turner. I can't really think forward wise. I mean, we have 2 of like the top 10 best forwards in the league.
We're pretty
So,
lucky.
Can't really,
Yeah, it's
really go wrong.
good. It's a good problem to have. And I was with you for a while, Alex, back in the Gordon Hayward TPE scenario, right? Remember there was rumors that potentially it could have been Doug McDermott and Miles Turner, and who knows how valid these rumors were, but that was always sticking in my mind. Is Miles Turner was a guy that I actually worked at UT for a couple of years. Miles Turner was the center at UT while I was there, and he was just brutally misused by Rick Barnes, and it still bothers me to this day just because I was at every single home game that he played in college, and I always have had kind of a soft spot for Miles Turner, and I really wanted that to be the case. So I was right there with you on that with Miles Turner for sure. And we got to see. I used to love DeJounte Murray for the season. It's kind of funny with the DeJounte Murray thing because there was so many rumors of DeJounte Murray or Derek White, right? And usually it was for Marcus Smart, and then we ended up with Derek White and Marcus Smart for a while. So it's funny how those things work out.
Will, how would you answer that question?
Of who I would want like around the league right now?
Yeah.
I mean, my guy Santi Aldama. I just was watching him earlier today. Of course, that's one guy that just jumped.
You guys can aim higher than the Santi Aldamas of the world.
No, for sure. I mean, like honestly, like this is probably too high, but is like I'm on board with you with Trey Murphy. Love Trey Murphy. Trey Murphy's awesome. Or it would be, someone like, and we'll see because he's still, we don't know what he's gonna be yet, but like I'm so in love with Amen Thompson. His game is so much fun to watch. Like he's probably got too much potential that it's like he's not in a star level yet, right? But you see that, I don't know, it's unclear where he's gonna fall. But those are like 2 younger guys that I would kind of look at that I'm like, man, if we could really find a way to bring them in, it's just something different for the Celtics, right? Like Trey Murphy gives you finally that third complement to the Jays that haven't really had since Gordon Hayward left. You know what I mean? Like that third wing to have a
size, 6'9",
right? And have 2 of those guys on the floor at all times and potentially play them all together. And we've just haven't really had a guy with the athleticism of Amen Thompson. Like, I mean, Jalen's crazy athletic, but that's Amen Thompson's full-time gig. It's just being the athletic freak. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just different levels to it. So I think those are some of the guys that I would look to. But Alex, before we wrap this up,
we got a question in the chat, Will, by the way.
Oh, what do we got here? Let me see here. Let me pull it up. All right, we'll go to this here for our last question, and we'll go to you here, Alex.
Yeah.
Is there a sleeper team that y'all are scared of in the East this year? Alex, what do you got for us on that?
It is my friend Costa, so shout out Costa.
What
He
up,
sent me
dog?
that video about Trae Young. Same sort of thing. Sleeper team. I really liked what Richard White said last podcast when he talked about matchups. Like, it's not really like a team; it's like a matchup. I'm afraid of. So, as we saw, we probably should have beat the Hawks, but they are for some reason a bad matchup for the Celtics. So that's a team I'm afraid of because they'll probably be in that 7-8 seed. And if they're the 7 seed, we'd play them first round. And we remember 2 years ago, they took us to 6 games and it was a close 6. They almost went to 7. So that's a team. The Magic, although they probably won't get fully healthy, they're also another matchup nightmare. So that's a sleeper team that I'm afraid of. The Cavs and the Knicks, I'm not really as worried about. I feel like we match up better against them. So
I also don't think that like they qualify as sleeper teams.
Yeah,
Right.
that's
Like
kind of what
those
I
are
was
the
thinking
teams
as
that are at
well.
the top of the conference. So
Yeah.
I would say, the Hawks, because they've already beat us twice in Boston this year. Dyson Daniels gives Jason Tatum fits. I think the size that they have, the athleticism that they have, this is why I've been advocating for more size in the court. It's for teams like the Magic and for teams like the Hawks. The Pacers obviously prove that they can take us to the deep water, and we were able to swim last year. But at the same time, like if we're not as efficient shooting, or say Tyrese Halliburton actually plays well, he didn't play well in the playoffs last year. Like if he's playing at near MVP level, like he was the first 20 games of last year, he can be the best player in any game against the Celtics, even though I'm not a Halliburton guy. I think that the Pacers are a team. I picked them to finish second in the East this year, and they played a lot better basketball. My guy, Andrew Nemhard, I love Andrew Nemhard. He's another guy that I would want on the Celtics.
That's a good
Bam
example.
Adebayo, Andrew Nemhard. I would love to see both of those guys on the Celtics. So yeah, those would be the 3 teams for me.
Yeah,
one
I mean, I
more,
think
probably the Pistons. I would say the Pistons.
so the Pistons
Yeah,
are the team I
man.
was gonna at least throw them in there. They had a big win today against the Rockets. Actually, they're over 500 right now. If they didn't lose Jaden Ivey, I think they just don't quite have enough high end depth, right, to lose a guy like Jaden Ivey and really still ultimately in a long term series against a team like the Celtics like match up. But Cade is a guy, right? Like Greg, you're kind of going through like who are the guys that like theoretically could either match up with being that level of star or superstar. Like Cade's, we got to see it a little bit more, but he's number 1 pick. He's going to be an all-star this year. Like you're seeing the numbers he's putting up. And, we've both been pretty high on Cade for a while. Like we know injuries have slowed him down.
Dude, coming into this year, people were talking so much shit about Cade Cunningham. It's like, are you kidding me? Like Cade Cunningham, he missed 2 years ago because of a shin injury, right? It was 2 years ago that he missed all the time. He had all the great reports coming into last year about how he was playing in the Team USA mini camps. Like everybody was just raving about Cade Cunningham, and he was on a shit Pistons team for a couple of years, and they get one of the worst situations possible with the coach with Monty Williams, and now he's in a good situation. And
they gave him a couple of adults. They gave him a couple of adult basketball players to go around some of the younger guys, and now you're seeing what that team can actually look like with a mixture of young, promising players and some veterans to kind of help balance it out and gives them some room going forward. So I think the Pistons are definitely another team to keep in mind. I think for me, it's the Magic. And I picked them to end up in the conference final. So I think they should be, if it wasn't for all the injuries, they'd be in that mix of Cleveland, New York, Milwaukee, that's in fighting for that home court in the first round. But the fact that, they're not getting Mo back, but they might. I don't know what the Jalen and Franz timelines are. I think they might both be back by the end of the season, but we'll see. It's finally starting to catch up to them. They've lost 3 straight. They're 3-7 in their last 10. So I would expect they still find a way to get into the play-in because basically everyone below the Pistons is desperately trying to lose games in the East to try and get into the Cooper Flag sweepstakes. So I think they'll still find a way into the playoffs. But that could very well end up being a healthy Magic being the Celtics' first round opponent, whether that's 7, probably not gonna get up to 1, but 7-2 matchup. Like that's very realistic that's the Celtics' first round. And that's going to be a tough ass first round. If you got Paolo, who I've got a hot take brewing about Paolo that will come up at some point here.
Looked a little doughy in that last game though. Looked a little doughy coming back from the injury.
A little doughy. He's coming back, but he's putting up numbers, man. Okay, let me ask you guys this real quick and then we'll get out of here. I don't know if you guys watched the end of that Memphis and Minnesota game. Not a great shot from Anthony Edwards at the buzzer. Who would you rather have going forward, Paolo or Ant?
I'll go to Alex here, man.
I don't know. Paulo's just his sheer size and athleticism. Like he's kind of like a mini Tatum. Like I feel like he's as tall or maybe even taller than Tatum.
I think he's
So
taller. He's like,
And bigger.
I think he's
bigger,
he's a
too.
legit 6'10". Everyone says Jason
Yeah.
Tatum's 6'10". Jason Tatum's not 6'10". He's 6'8.5".
yeah. But I'd probably still go with Ant. I don't know. I watched Wizards Timberwolves in person, and Anthony Edwards just like single-handedly in the fourth quarter scored 21 points and just completely took over that game.
Yeah.
Plus he's been in the spotlight.
There's no wrong answer to this question. I'm
Yeah.
just curious to know because I think I'd be one of the few people that I think I'd actually say Paolo over Ant. That's who I would.
I'm always going to go the guy with size. Always going to go the guy with size. So I'm going to go Paolo.
Yeah, and I just think, dude, you look at what Paolo's done. He's in year 3, and like the burden he's carried for the first 2 years offensively with that Magic team and how shit they were. Like, it's really impressive when you look at, what it could have been this year, and it's,
Yeah,
we'll
I mean, and let's just like Ant's the better player right now, no question.
Yeah,
about it.
yeah,
But
yeah.
your
That's not the
going
question,
forward.
but exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why back to the original question. Sneaky teams in the East. I think the Magic are the team that I'm most afraid of. And when it talks about styles making fights, good chance that's our first round fight. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But appreciate the question. Appreciate the chat. Alex, we appreciate having you on board here, man. Pumped to have you with the Green with the Envy crew. So your boy Costas, make sure you guys are telling everybody that you're going to be doing a lot of great work for us and to come join us when we have these live podcasts, and make sure they're checking us out on YouTube, IG, X, Blue Sky, all the social medias that we're on and that we'll be posting to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for having me. I can't wait to get to work.
All right, Alex, we appreciate you, my guy. Greg, I appreciate you as well. We're keeping it to the traditional salutes. No Elon Musk in this bitch. We're getting out of here. It's MLK Day. Everybody, hopefully you enjoyed your 3-day weekend. We'll be back at you with some more content for sure. We will be live on Friday morning for Coffee and C's, working on lining up a Mavericks preview as part of Coffee and C's for Friday. So make sure that you guys come join us the night after Celtics-Lakers. So we'll certainly have a recap of that as well. So a recap and a rematch. That's what we're looking at for Friday, Coffee and C's. Come hang with us. We'll be in Dallas. If you guys are going to be out there, let us know. We'd love to see you. We'd love to hear from you. Greg, any final thoughts before we wrap this up here?
I was so happy to see Jamal Hill's bitch ass get knocked out by Yuri Prohaska this weekend. But that's all I got for you guys. Peace.
If somebody can translate that, send it to me. Peace, y'all.